Hey guys, my name is Medic. I'm a lead developer of the Lord of the Rings strategy mod called Divide and Conquer AGO, and today I'm going to be talking at length about AGO's new 3.2 update. This is going to be a long video, but I've done my best to break it down into chapters, and if you would rather read about the changes, I'm going to put a link to the changelog in the description below. Before we get started, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has contributed to the mod so far for this update, and also to the community for being so supportive, because it's really helped us get this patch out the door. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so let's get into the first new script slash feature. So this one is called Allegiance of Old. And it is a script for all three Elven factions. So for the High Elves, Lorien, and the Woodland Realm. And the kind of core concept of the script is that there's always been this kind of disconnect with playing the Elves, in that it feels kind of weird to go around the map, I guess painting the map and like conquering everything. It just doesn't really kind of feel very thematic for an Elven faction in Lord of the Rings in this time period to be kind of doing that. So the idea behind the script is to kind of address that, while also making it fun to play a little bit taller rather than wider. So there's a little intro here. We can read this, I suppose. As a storm is brewing across Middle-earth, and without our help all shall be lost. Long ago we fought and died with men and dwarves, and it is time we rekindle these ancient bonds. However, they are proud races and fiercely independent. They will not tolerate being ruled by an elf, and rightly so. We must support them, help them sow the seeds of prosperity, and in return we shall receive their aid. So yeah, this script is about helping your allies. So if you're if you're playing Lorien, your ally is going to be the Anduin Vale and Rohan. If you're playing the Woodland Realm, your ally is going to be Dale. If you're playing the High Elves, your ally is going to be Khazad or the Dunedain. And the script is kind of encouraging you to help those factions prosper, gain settlements, and in return for them doing well, they will help you both financially and militarily. So this script was made by Voya, who is the creator of the Golden Legacy submod for DAC V5, if you're familiar with that. He has done loads and loads of amazing work on AGO, and this script was completely done by him. So I'm definitely going to make some mistakes or not quite understand something, but I'll do my best to kind of explain it and go over it. So, I guess the first thing you're going to do with this script is the way you interact with it is in the half scroll here. So if you're not familiar with this, you need to press X to open this. You don't need to have a settlement selected or anything. And you've got your kind of little preamble here explaining, and then we've got our this really nice UI. He did such a great job on this. I'm very impressed with this. So we can see here that your allies, and I know I mentioned previously that it's kind of about like a faction has a settlement or a faction has an ally, but the better way to explain it is that it's tied to the actual settlement itself. So like the Anduin don't particularly care if there's elves from Rivendell or the Woodland Realm in Lorien. They're just, as far as they're concerned, they're just elves. So The relationships are actually bound to the settlement and that there's elves in there. So that also kind of works. If one of these factions gets destroyed, or if one of the elven factions gets destroyed, or you merge with another elven faction, the script can keep going. So we're going to use Anduin as an example today. So we can see here the elves holding Caris Galadden or Thranduil's halls are bound to the Anduin Vale, so that could be Woodland Realm or the High Elves. So we're at we don't have any tier right now, so there's no, the script is kind of, it's running, but there's nothing going to happen for us because we don't have these requirements. So because the UI is really well done, we can see here that we have 3 of the requirements. So we currently own Caris Galadden or Thranduil's halls. They own Bjorn's halls, so they own an important settlement. And they own at least 4 settlements. So I guess this is kind of reinforcing the idea that if they weren't doing well themselves, then they're not going to send help to us because they're going to be, focused on protecting themselves. And if they were to lose Bjorn's halls, then it encourages us to recapture it and kind of give it back to them. So the first thing here is that we are not allied. So I will just ally us quickly, and I will come back and we can see then what kind of units we're going to get. Alright, so I've got an alliance with them and I've just ended the turn, and as you can see here we have a nice little event that's saying our kind of allegiance with the Anduin Vale has been renewed. Our bonds between our people stand firm once more, and that they're going to start sending us some money and some soldiers to kind of help us out as much as they can. So if we go back into the half scroll here, we can now see that our tier has gone from no to low, and they're going to send us regularly 3 units chosen randomly from this selection of units, and about 500 gold. So they could send us woodland trackers, warriors, wardens, or shield bearers. If we were to get a higher tier, they would send us more units and of a better quality. I believe there's 3 tiers, so there's low, medium, and high. And it says here that if we want to get to the next tier, we need to help them get control over 8 settlements. So, we could go and help them in battles. We could try and weaken their enemies. We could capture settlements and gift them units. Sorry, gift them units. That doesn't make sense. You can't give units. Gift them settlements. And actually, there's a new script that I've added, because you might hear me say, oh, gift them settlements. Yeah, well, when I give them settlements, either nothing spawns in it, or it's a bunch of random mercenaries that are useless. Well, now when you gift another faction a settlement, they will get a random army, randomly generated army, and governor. So it will make gifting settlements to other factions a bit more meaningful now, because they'll actually be able to develop them and hopefully defend them a bit more. So that kind of interacts with the script, which is nice. And so then this progress bar here is representing when you're actually going to receive the aid. So this progress will fill up based on how well the other faction is doing. So when this reaches 100, that's when we will receive the 3 random units and the random amount of gold as well. So that is Lorien and the Anduin. So I'm just going to jump into another example. Maybe we can do the High Elves and have a look at their interaction with Khazad and the Dunedain. Alright, so yeah, I'm in a High Elves campaign now. we can go in here and we can see that Khazad and the Dunedain are bound to whatever elves are in Imladris, which is us as the High Elves. We already kind of start off with the low tier with the Dunedain, which is nice because obviously that makes sense. The High Elves have a good relationship with the Dunedain. And we can get Dunedain scouts, rangers, wardens from these pools. And if we want to get the next tier, they need to have at least 10 settlements. Now, the kind of requirements to even get the first tier are different for each faction. So Khazad don't just need we don't just need an alliance, and they don't need to hold their capital, but they actually need Khazad West as well. So they need to control Khazad East and West, which at the start of the game they only have Khazad East. So if we want to actually kind of start our allegiance with them, we're going to have to go and fight the goblins, help them out, take Khazad West and give it back to them if they don't already own it themselves. And there's actually, separate to this script, but Khazad, there's a special building in Khazad West. I can't remember what it's called, but that actually requires an alliance with the High Elves in the first place. So there's a lot more incentives now to help out your allies, help them fulfill their victory conditions, I guess, in air quotes, and do kind of lawful things rather than going around the map kind of conquering as this, you know, kind of elven empire, which it doesn't really feel very thematic or what the campaign should be. So overall, I think it's an amazing feature. I'm excited to see what you guys think about it. I'm sure Voya would love to see some feedback or some comments. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone thinks. And it's cool that it works for all the Elven factions, so you know it'll also work for the Woodland Realm as well, which is just going to add a bit of flavor to their campaigns. So yeah, good job, Voya, and thank you very much. Alright, so next up I'm going to talk about the kind of stat overhaul that happened for the elves and the dwarves. So this is all elven units in the mod, not just, you know, ones for a specific faction. It includes mercenaries, it includes the Avari, everything. So part of this kind of change was trying to address the kind of problem, I guess, that exists in the mod, in that the elves are supposed to be few in number, but it's not really represented by their unit stats in the mod. You know, they actually have really high soldier counts when in reality they probably shouldn't. But then if you want to adjust that, there's a whole host of other kind of things you need to address in order to keep the balance of the mod and make sure that they're still fun to play as and to play against and so on. So yeah, I'm just going to run through exactly what has changed about elves, and of course just keep in mind this is always subject to change. You know, if we're always working on things based on feedback, so if you have played, it would be helpful, to be honest, if you would first play the update and see how the elves feel, or to play against before you kind of start giving your opinion on it, because it has been thoroughly tested already. So if there's something you think isn't right, then that's great, but just play a little bit first. And yeah, we can make changes based on feedback or whatever. So okay, so all elven units have relentless animations. What does relentless mean? Relentless means that, you can see here, they have this tag. It means that the unit, when they're fighting in melee, they don't get stunned. So if they, for example, get hit by an enemy and successfully block that attack, the unit won't get stunned. So that basically just means that they're they have more opportunities to attack and therefore inflict more damage, and they can more effectively deal with being surrounded by other units because unlike the later Total War games, I think the way it works is that units are always fighting 1v1, they're kind of like locked in, whereas in the earlier games units can get surrounded, like Elrond's unit could get surrounded by goblins and he's just permanently stun locked because there's so many of them. Well, all elves are now immune to that effect. So elves also got all of their attack and defensive stats increased. We'll take a unit like Noldor Veterans. They've now got 26 attack. I don't know what it was before, but they have 26 attack. 87 soldiers, charge bonus 14, 35 defense, armor, defense skill, hit points. They still have 1 hit point. And yeah. Let's take another example. Say Amanyar Riders. You can see their stats there. Okay. So yeah, they've had all their attack and defensive stats increased. Their melee damage has been greatly increased. Their missile damage has been greatly increased. Their armor is around 9 to 20. Defense skill around 9 to 20. Shield around 7 to 10. Smaller unit size between 80 and 100 to counteract all the buffs, of course. Their terrain effects and bonuses have been improved greatly. So you can see here, maybe that's not a very good example. Yeah, in snow or forest, they're much more effective. And this is only on the battle map. This isn't affected in auto-resolve, so I think this was added to kind of help them compensate for not being as effective in auto-resolve anymore as they were before, but more effective on the battlefield. And I think if I remember correctly, this is attack. This only applies to attack. So -1 attack on Barren, shrubs, forests, snow, +2, 3, and 4. They also have better movement speed. So 115, 120 for the Wandering Sentinels, 120, 120, 120. So yeah, it looks like 120 is maybe the baseline, which makes sense for elves as well. They have better mass, so they should be able to withstand charges a little bit better. And then they also have AP. Some more units have gotten AP arrows to help make the archer units feel a bit more impactful. So Rivendell Rangers, Guildclad's Company, Elder Inway Thuridir, Tawar Arenir, Array Hurith, Elbereth Sentinels, Berio, Galadrim Chosen, Gurvaleg, Elder Inway, Rock Thinim, Eladan's Bodyguard, and Greenwood Rangers. Wow, what a mouthful. All those units have AP arrows now. And then for the... Got some new Angmar units here. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted. These look so cool. I love this new helmet. Oh, there's a barrow white with a torch there as well. Really cool new helmets and masks on the new Angmar units. So then the dwarves, they didn't get changed as much. They just got more armor across the board and slightly nerfed defense skill and melee damage, just to make them feel a bit more distinct from the elves. Yeah, I think that's everything about the Elven changes. I'm looking forward to hearing what people think. And if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the Discord, which I will link below if you're not already part of.
Our worst fears have come to pass. The One Ring has revealed itself, and as the Fellowship prepares for its perilous journey to Mount Doom, The shadow of Sauron stretches forth to reclaim it. In ages long past, the Witch King gathered a dark army in Angmar. Once again, he calls a vast horde from the depths of Kandum to march upon the lands of Middle-earth and lay them to waste. Aragorn and I hoped the Rangers alone could hold back the Witch King's advance, and that Angmar's strength had not yet grown too great. We were wrong.
All right, so first things first, let's take a look at the new Angmar. So, Angmar has received a complete faction overhaul. So that includes an entirely new roster, new scripts, new units, new unit models, new starting conditions, new voiceovers for a bunch of new units. Yeah, just a bunch of stuff. New faction icon. So yeah, this is really, really cool. Angmar for a long time has been, it's been, I will say, okay. Conceptually, I always liked the faction, and you know, the idea of the Iron Crown units was always really cool. But it always just kind of felt a little bit weird. That there was kind of this army of men and orcs just kind of living up north in Angmar, when historically and kind of in the lore, there shouldn't really be that many people living there. So part of this overhaul is trying to kind of address that, in that now the start of the your kind of starting conditions are, you have basically been sent north by Sauron. Agendaur is kind of leading an expedition almost to establish a foothold here in the north, and your kind of task is to take control of the north, reassert your control over, Mount Gram and Carndum. Maybe deal with the orcs in Gundabad. What are you going to do with the Hillmen in Ruadar? All that kind of stuff. So it's a lot more interesting, I think, than previously. And not only is it going to be interesting for the Angmar player, but I think it's going to be really, really interesting for other factions in Erebor. So your traditional Dunedain campaign, or Ered Luin, if you're playing good, or Bree, or even High Elves actually as well, should be a bit more interesting, because you're going to be fighting some new units and a kind of variety of a different faction. The faction is going to be different. So I would just like to also say thank you very much to Armo Litsky for working on this overhaul. He did the majority of the unit models and kind of came up with the concepts. I think he had his own submod for DAC V5 as well. Excuse me. And a lot of this stuff is from there, but he also did a bunch of new and original stuff just for AGO. So thank you very much to him. He did a great job. And also thank you to all the other people who worked on this. So I think Skywalker did some writing, Voya helped with some scripts, CU did all of the UI for all of the units. There were a bunch of models were kind of kit bashed from various other model creators, so Lorenian's work and Bill's work and Coma's work, so thank you to them as well. But yeah, let's get into it. So you're still being led by Agendaur, who now has some nice custom voice lines.
Greetings, servant of Sauron. As our master commanded,
And
you considered my offer.
he has his traditional temple wards, bodyguard. It is a custom version with 0 upkeep, but the stats are kind of roughly the same. And he's got some thralls with him. Oh yeah, I guess so I can talk a little bit about the roster. So the roster it's kind of similar to the other to Angmar's previous roster, but which is nice because I actually thought that Angmar's previous roster was quite cool. You know, the mix of the kind of Angmaran nobility and the orcs and the hillmen. But it's kind of just a bit more of a refined take on that and kind of updated to more modern standards, I guess, for modding. So we've got the thralls here, your kind of trash unit. These are actually quite an interesting unit. There's a few other bits and pieces for related to this unit, and there's kind of, as you can see here, it's got this tag. It's a slave unit, so we'll get into that in a minute. Got some Grand Marauders, Thrall Masters, the Iron Crown Swordsman. I was going to do a kind of going over the on the battlefield, going over all the units. I might do that just so you can have a look. I know some people, not everyone plays the game, and some people are actually interested in seeing the content. So yeah, I guess we can do that after. But I'll just show you kind of the starting army. So the Iron Crown units, these are kind of going to be your more elite units, and your majority of your army is going to be kind of padded out with orcs and slaves and hillmen, and then you've kind of got your Iron Crown units, which are your elites. I love these new helmets too. They're so cool. Really, really cool. So yeah, you got Agendour. We've still got Drangu with his Warg Riders, and I believe he has some Skirmishers, custom unit with 0 upkeep as well. And yeah, you can hear he's got Orc voice lines, which is cool. We've got our spy over here. Move him out of the way for now. And so we've got Morholt, the hillman, and he's got some of this Creoth. These are kind of, the Creoth are they're kind of like a clan of the hillmen, a tribe or a clan, and they're probably the most powerful one of the hillmen of Rudar. So they've got their own kind of dedicated units here. They've got the spear band and the axe throwers, and then you've got your kind of generic hillmen, which are just drafted from whatever the smaller other clans. So Morholt's lore, I think, is kind of basically that he has been kind of convinced, you know, Agendour has come here and he's kind of convinced Morholt to separate off from the rest of the hillmen and maybe fight on his side instead. You know, maybe with promises of power or gold or whatever. And okay, yeah, he serves the Witch King now, so he's got hillman voice lines. And he's got Warlord's Chosen, which is one of the recruitable bodyguard units for Angmar. So as you can see, this is the General's Bodyguard. This is specifically for generals. You can take a look here at his traits. He's got his biography, which is really cool. And you can see here is the new strat model for the hillman. Which is a bit less kind of tribal looking and a bit more put together with the chainmail and stuff. And here's the default captain model. And then over here we have Unvorn, who has he's your traditional white general. You probably remember him from before, and again he also has Barrow Whites. I can't remember if Barrow Whites are 0 upkeep by default. I think they are. And he is one of the few generals in the game with Dread, which shouldn't decay now as well, but we'll touch on that later. He's got one of the new special abilities as well, which is Curse. That's specifically to a hero ability specifically for white generals, and it gives 50% enemy army fatigue, which is permanent, and then it also will fatigue your own units as well, but not as much. So one of the things I like about the hero abilities in AGO, because we've overhauled them now, is that rather than the hero abilities just being kind of flat buffs, which isn't very interesting because it's kind of just a do everything better button. Now there's a bit more nuance to how you're going to use them, so some of them have negative effects and you kind of need to think about, okay, well, when is an appropriate time to use this? Do I want to use this, at the start of a battle, or maybe halfway through, or when I'm on the ropes, or whatever? So yeah, that's cool. He's got his own biography here, and he has his own voice lines as well, which is cool. So yeah, they're your starting generals, and of course you start with Litash. Oh, we forgot about Skilled. He's your heir, I think, and he is your just traditional kind of Angmar general. So he's more like your generic bodyguard, generic general type rather. But he also has Dark Blades as his bodyguard, the free upkeep version. And I mean, just look at the model. Like, they're so cool. And so like Dark Blades were cool before, but now they're just better. They're even cooler than they were before. And a lot of the new units have new descriptions as well, which Skywalker wrote. I wrote a few of them myself as well. And they're really cool, so check them out. And yeah, you start off with Litash. It's kind of established a little bit, but not massively. What kind of units can we get in here? We can get some Gram Shield Breakers, some Marauders, and the Trackers, and then just some Hillmen and Thralls, yeah. So, you might be wondering how the recruitment works for the new units. So, we can see. So, it's kind of split up into three different kind of barracks buildings, which I think makes sense because the Angmaran nobility or whatever aren't probably going to subject themselves to living in a barracks with orcs. I wouldn't if I was them, and Hillmen vice versa. So you've got the Hillmen camp building. We've got 2 tiers of that with some nice UI, which I believe is from Age of the Ring, so thank you very much to them. And this is where we can get, our Creoth units that I talked about earlier, the Hillmen, your Etten Moors Troll Hunters, really cool unit as well, and the Huskarls. And there's a little bug here. This is displaying 3 times, but you can get bonus recruitment slots here, so it's not just changing the cap, but it's actually going to give you extra recruitment slots, so that's really helpful. So that's the Hillman kind of building line. Then you've got the Orc one, so this is your kind of traditional Orc barracks where you've got your Gram units from, which is just going to give you better availability and some public order bonus. And then you've got your Angmarim barracks, so this is where your Iron Crown units are going to come from. So you've got your Iron Crown swordsmen, longbowmen, and your pikemen. And you can also get your Dark Blades from here. And then at the highest tier, you can get the Witch Realm Inquisitors and the Witch Knights. Which just look amazing. And why don't we read this? So, in the year 1300 of the Third Age, when the Witch King stood atop the peaks of Carndum and surveyed what would soon become his kingdom, he made a promise to destroy the free peoples of Erebor. It is in service to this promise and to him that this hall now stands. From here, his inquisitors usher forth across Erebor, enforcing the will of Sauron and the temple. From here, his witch knights lead the men and orcs of Angmar against the free peoples. From here, Erebor shall finally be his. So that is the barracks for the recruitment, and then we've got so if you want to recruit the Barrow Wights, I think traditionally they came from the culture building, which is the Shrines of Sauron, which was okay, but could have been a bit more interesting. So they now come from a building line called Corrupted Barrows, and this can only be built in regions that have a actual barrow resource. So if we toggle Fog of War here, we can see that I think there's some barrows. Yeah, so there's some barrows here in Deadman's in Fornost, and I think there's some around here as well. Yeah, there's one there. So now, rather than you just getting them from the culture building, which didn't really make any sense, you actually need to come in, conquer a settlement with the barrow resource in it, and then you're going to actually corrupt that barrow and kind of get the Barrow Wights from there. So I believe you need let's check this again. I think you need the Witch King to be back to actually kind of perform that sorcery. I'm lost here. I've lost myself here. Corrupted Barrows, I think it says in the description. Yeah, requires a region with barrows and the return of the Witch King. So that's cool. A little bit of progression for you there, but you get some Barrow Wights to start off with at the beginning anyways. You've got the great statue of the Witch King, which is a cool, unique building that you can build in Fornost and Numinas. And it gives you access to some of your cool units and some kind of really good public order bonuses to offset any negative effects that you might get from, you know, maybe bringing slaves back or something like that, because there's also a new building called the Slave Market. And that is another new interesting thing about Angmar, is kind of one of its faction identities is that there's a lot of kind of, I don't know, slaving going on. They're going on raids and they're kind of capturing people from the hinterland or from towns and villages, you know, maybe going on raids into Breland lands or into the lands of the kind of hillmen. You're capturing people, putting them to work, creating thralls out of them. You know, that's why this is tagged as a slave unit. And then there's a few scripts that kind of interact with that. So if we go back to the slave market, which is here. So you've got a kind of public order bonus minus 30% here from this building line. Although it does enable you to recruit the thralls. But if you have this building present, you will get extra income from this building based on how many slaves are actually in the settlement itself. So you might ask, okay, well, what are slaves? Well, if we go in here and we go to the settlement details and we look at the culture, it's mostly Melkor Shadow and Gundabad orcs in here. But if we, let's do toggle perfect spy, we go into Raglaw. Yeah, so we can see here that there's 20% of the population in Raglaw is actually slaves. So if we were to build the slave market in here, we would actually get more than the 200 income from it, because there's quite a high population of slaves in it. And in addition to that as well, the rate at which you can recruit thralls scales off how many slaves are in that settlement, the population of slaves in that settlement. So you're kind of incentivized to maybe pick 1 or 2 settlements that are going to be like your hub settlements, where you're going to kind of bring back any slaves that you capture from raiding. Because remember, when you go across the border and you raid some. Okay, maybe we can test this here. Let's take Moorholt and we'll raid this village. And so we've got some slaves, and so now maybe we would bring these back to Lutash, and we return the slaves. Bring back the loot as well. And so now you can see that there's some slaves in here, and so we're going to be able to recruit thralls faster, and if we build a slave market here, we also get extra income. So that's a cool new mechanic. Currently, thralls are the only unit with this slave unit tag, but maybe we'll add more in the future. Trying to think, is there anything else? Oh, you got your ward camp. That's kind of normal. You've got your culture buildings. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. You've got access to the forge and Adunaim. Oh, yeah, I didn't talk about Carndum. So Carndum has... You don't start with Carndum at the beginning. There's some kind of rebels in here. And there is a special building in here that you can also rebuild, which gives you a bunch of bonuses. So yeah, you start with 1 settlement, but you kind of have a few options. You could kind of work towards going towards Mount Graham and through Morva Tarth and on to Camath Bryn, which is the what we've kind of established as the ancestral home of the Rudar people. So if I get my spy and I bring him over here, you can see there's this landmark building, the Hallowed Halls of Rudar, which is kind of just giving you a bit of backstory and telling you, this is where the people of Rudar had their capital, but now it's kind of fallen into disrepair and has been taken over by orcs, which have come down from the mountains. Goblins, rather. There's some hill trolls here. So, this is one avenue. Another avenue is that you can work towards Barkaleg or Raglaw. So Raglaw is the kind of de facto new home of the Hillmen and the people of Rudar that are living here now. So this is actually quite a good settlement now. It's a town. There's a Hillman camp here. There's communal farming. It makes 1,527 straight out the gate, which is quite good, and it has a half decent population too. So that would be a good avenue. The only thing is, the Dunedain are just down here, and they're going to get here pretty quickly because they also, this is going to be a good settlement for them. The AI focuses on settlements that have good resources. There's quite a few trade resources here as well. You've got some trappers and lumberyard. I think there's a village here. So yeah, that's one avenue. I guess we can talk about this here as well. There used to be a settlement here called Thilin, I think. And this region was just a dud region, to be honest. There was nothing happening, so I have renamed the settlement to Imlad Neen, which is, I can't remember what it is, but it's some translation of a wet valley. And I've added some hills here and some kind of forest so that this area is a lot more interesting. This is still a village, but it's got a lumber camp in it, so there's something there. There's some kind of swamp here to play around, a little choke point. So that will be interesting to fight over, I think. Barkaleg is a castle now. It used to be a town. So yeah, you've got this avenue, and over here. Or obviously you can go for Carndum, which is going to be really good, and then kind of spread out to the north to Angsul. Maybe you want to subjugate the Loso tribes up here, because you can recruit them from the Great Tent. Or alternatively, I guess we can transition now and start talking about the new scripts, which are one of them is about interacting with Gundabad, which I think is really interesting. So Gundabad is interesting because they're orcs, but they're one of the only, I suppose they're the only orc faction that's not really subservient to Sauron. So I think if we go into the, we can look at their culture buildings. Fix this. Their culture buildings aren't necessarily about worshipping Sauron. They're not allied to Sauron out the gate. So there's an opportunity here for Angmar to either subjugate or ally with these kind of orcs of Gundabad. So I guess we can read this, sure, why not? Lord Agandar, now that we have established a foothold here in the north and Litash is ours, we would do well to heed the words of the Dark Lord. He spoke of a race of snow orc, yet bent to his will, who have taken up refuge in the hallowed halls of Mount Gundabad for many a year now. If we are to succeed here in Angmar, we must deal with them. Destroy them or ally with them, it matters not. We cannot become embroiled in a long, drawn-out war with them when the Rangers and Elves grow stronger every day. Above all, they respect power, and if we can prove to them the true peak of the power of the Dark Lord Sauron, they will submit themselves to our command. See it done, and remember that while an alliance will secure some support, we must capture Mount Gundabad ourselves if we are to truly enslave them all to our will. So essentially that's basically saying that if you don't want to think about them you don't want to go to war with them straight away, well, maybe you could kind of try and negotiate some alliance with them, which will enable you to recruit a few of their units. Or if you want to get access to some of their better units, then you're going to have to go and march on Gundabad and capture that yourself, which has quite a strong garrison. So that's going to be quite difficult. But that is one of the new scripts, allying with Gundabad. Another thing that I forgot to mention that just popped into my head is when you are playing as Angmar, you don't actually start at war with the High Elves and the Dunedain and Bree. The implication being here that, as I mentioned earlier, you've kind of just come and you've come on this expedition and established yourself here in Litash. And while there's kind of ranger patrols probably around this area and the High Elves kind of have some idea of maybe what's going on, they haven't actually kind of realized that you have come all the way north and that you've now established yourself here. So as you capture more settlements, and I think it's also gated maybe at a certain turn, eventually they will realize you're here and they will declare war on you. But yeah, so it gives you a little bit of breathing room at the beginning to kind of decide what you want to do. But very, very quickly, they're going to realize you're here, they're going to declare war on you, and you're not going to have time to kind of hide any longer or try and be subtle about what's going on. But that only applies to when you're playing as Angmar. If Angmar is controlled by the AI, well, they're at war with everyone. So yeah, we've got. Let me just get up my notes here in case I'm missing something. So yeah, we went over the Gundabad script. I guess we could talk about the Plague script. So this is another new, completely new script in that once the Witch King has returned and Sauron has the ring, you have the ability as the Witch King to summon a plague. So plagues, if you're not familiar with them in the base game, they're kind of like a disease that can pop up. It's supposed to simulate the Black Plague from the base game, and it can spread from characters to other characters. So generals can get it, spies can get it, units can get it, and they can, it can spread between armies, and you can a spy can get the plague, and you can send him into an enemy settlement, and he can spread plague throughout the whole settlement and everything. So it's quite an interesting mechanic, but in the base game it's kind of disabled because people don't really like it just randomly popping up. You're about to do Aragon's coronation for the reunited kingdom, and next minute some plague pops up and starts massacring everyone in the settlement. So that's not very interesting. But it is interesting when you're the Witch King and Sauron has the One Ring, and you want to be the person that summons that. That's pretty cool, I think. So that's how the new mechanic works. So basically, it works similar to the Palantir in that you can select any location on the map, like a settlement or a specific character, and the plague will spread amongst all of those characters in that location, and then they can spread it to other people. So it's an easy way if you want to like start killing off characters or kind of devastating the population of a settlement. You do just have to be careful with it though, because there's nothing that stops it from spreading to your faction as well. Elven units, or not elven units, but elven characters are immune to it because I think in the lore, elves are immune to kind of diseases and stuff like that. So it doesn't affect them, but it can still affect. Like Drangu can still get the plague, or Morholt can still get the plague, and it can still damage them. But yeah, it's just a new script for Angmar, which I think is interesting. You've got your Sauron's Will script, which was already in AGO. It's just kind of been slightly updated. And if you're not familiar with that, it's kind of this small little script where if you capture Ossul, Deadman's Dyke, or Numenas as Angmar, Sauron kind of rewards you doing well and capturing these historical, Numenorian settlements, and he sends reinforcements from Mordor. So he sends some black Numenorian generals with some cool bodyguards. I think you might get like temple wards, or not temple wards, temple marksmen, temple knights, and some kind of black Uruks as well. So previously they used to spawn instantly outside the settlement, but now they'll spawn and delay kind of outside Latash to show that they're slowly coming up from Mordor. Yeah, and then you've got your 2 recruitable bodyguards, which are your Witch Knights and your Gram War Chiefs. I did mention the Warlords Chosen earlier, but I don't think you can recruit them. I could be wrong. I'm not quite sure how that works. I'll have to double check that one. But yeah, I think that's everything. So there's quite a lot of stuff there. It's going to be really interesting.
Greetings, servant of Sauron.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you to everybody who worked on it. Everybody did such a good job. And yeah, also got the new faction symbol. The UI has been slightly updated. But yeah, can't wait for you guys to try this one. I think it's going to be really cool. Okay, so another faction I wanted to touch on is Rohan, because they have received nothing crazy, but a few kind of significant changes that I'd like to kind of showcase. So the Theoden script has been slightly updated. So he's got this new portrait showing that he is, obviously being deceived by Grima, and he's kind of, the faction is in a bad state. One of my problems with Rohan previously was that they're supposed to be kind of all over the place, and you know, Saruman is supposed to be messing with Theoden's mind, and he has him under this spell, but it doesn't really feel very reflected in how the faction's starting conditions are. You start with all these crazy huge armies, and the debuffs that, you know, Theoden has, it doesn't really matter that much. They don't really do anything, so it's also not really felt thematically. You know, Theoden had his old portrait, he looked absolutely fine. So now he's got this new portrait. You can see, you know, he's got barely any command. His renown is completely off the charts. His authority is also not max, which, you know, could potentially cause problems. Most faction leaders have authority at max, which I think prevents characters from rebelling. So I haven't actually tested this. Hopefully his authority being not max isn't going to cause a lot of problems, but it might do. But, you know, if they do, I'm kind of okay with that. We'll see how that plays out. And then you can see here the debuff is way, way more severe than it was before. So he's got the -6 personal security, -50% taxes, trading income, and he also can't move at all. Now, previously he can move one tile, but, you know, now he can't move at all. And so this was also, his script was also updated so that rather than Theoden automatically being renewed and freed from Saruman's spell at a fixed turn, there's now a percentage chance for it to happen. I think every turn, or maybe after turn 10. Does it say here? Yeah, so after turn 10. There's a chance for Theoden to be freed from Saruman's spell, and then that chance is increased by the number of battles that you've won and the number of settlements that you actually kind of own. So, you know, it's trying to show that the more that Rohan is kind of prospering, that Theoden kind of realizes that he doesn't need Grima, and, you know, he can be freed from Saruman's spell, rather than it just being at a boring fixed turn. You'll also notice that if we go into our list of characters here, that there's no Erebor. So Erebor is now sent off the map at the beginning to simulate him being banished, as he kind of is in the movies. And when Theoden is then renewed and brought back, he will Erebor will return. So that kind of also gives you a bit of incentive to kind of renew Theoden, and it's a nice kind of gives you a little boon when that happens, rather than, I don't know, just when Theoden came back before, it was kind of interesting, but it was also a bit anticlimactic, to be honest. So hopefully that will be a bit more interesting. You might also notice that the starting armies have been reduced across the board. They're a lot smaller now, because the Rohan campaign previously was a bit trivial. You don't have any threats whatsoever, like Dol Guldur are not coming anywhere near you at the beginning. Mordor aren't coming anywhere near you at the beginning. So basically, you just had to make a big 20 stack, and you just march it into Dunland slash Isengard, and you just wreck everyone, because you have so many cavalry units and generals that it was just too much, to be honest. So you also have a bunch of new starting bodyguards. We can go through them. Eowyn has her normal shield maidens. Dun here has, I think that's the default bodyguard. Yep, he's the only one with the default bodyguard. Hammer has some skirmishers, arid skirmishers. Theodred has the door words. Erkenbrand has Helmingus, which makes sense. Gamling has some swordsmen. Elfhelm, which I always thought was an interesting name, has some Rohirrim archers, which is probably going to be super good. Swidhelm has just some standard Rohirrim, and then you've got your Dunforgoil, I think, Rhaego over here with, yeah, Dunforgoil Warlords. What else? Oh yeah, the event pictures have been updated, so we've got some cool new art for Theoden. Glittering Caves is the same, and that's the same, but the event pictures for a bunch of their event pictures have been updated. They have a new Bannerman battle model, so thank you Lorien for that. I think he did a lot of research and made some really cool banners for the new units, for the new Bannerman model rather. The Glittering Caves has been updated, so there is new building UI, I think. Does it show up here? Glittering Caves? No, I don't see it here. Ah, well, we've got this. So yeah, this is kind of the unupgraded version. That script has also been updated. So previously, I'm just trying to remember how it worked. I think, yeah, so the way it worked previously was you just had to have an alliance with a dwarven faction. I think actually it was only Erebor or Eredluin. And then slowly over time you would build up points, and once you reached enough points by having an alliance with those dwarven factions and not being at war with any other dwarven factions, you would get enough dwarves would eventually come to Helm's Deep, and you would be able to then build the Glittering Caves, and then I think you could upgrade the building again. So it does kind of work in a similar way, but the script started previously at like turn 80 or something absurd, so it in my opinion, that's way too late for a script to be starting. So especially for Rohan, who doesn't have a massive amount of scripts, so I think that starts a lot earlier now. Doesn't say exactly, but the script starts maybe turn 15 or 30. I can't remember exactly. So it starts a lot earlier. It now accounts for the fact that Eredluin can go evil, because previously, if Eredluin accepted the rings and you were at war with them, it wouldn't let you gain points, which didn't make any sense because, you know, they're evil. They've accepted the rings. Obviously, you're going to want to go to war with them, and you shouldn't be penalized in your script for doing that. So that's factored in, and you can also gain points from Khazad now as well, just to make it a bit more logical. I know maybe previously the argument could have been that Khazad were doing their own thing, but sure, look, they're dwarves at the end of the day, and just for the kind of sake of the player and not overcomplicating the script, I think it makes more sense. You will also get a custom guard of the cave general when you complete the script, because I thought that would be cool, and they have custom voice lines, the guard of the cave, and the new model that Lorien made for that unit is also amazing, so I wanted to kind of give that a bit more of a spotlight. You can also get dwarven laborers recruited from the higher tier of the building, and I think you get a little bit more population now than you previously did. And I updated some of the event text as well. So yeah, hopefully that will give Rohan's campaign a little bit more flavor, make it a bit more interesting, a bit more of a struggle at the beginning, and then, you know, maybe into the mid game, then you can start feeling like really powerful, rather than coming out the gate with, you know, 50 custom bodyguard or cavalry custom bodyguard units that just steamroll everything essentially. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Maybe I went overboard on the nerfs, or give it a try and let me know and see how it goes. Okay, so another faction that has received a few changes is Erebor. They haven't received anything crazy, just a bit of a polish and touch up to try and bring them in line with the other factions in the mod, and just to make them a bit more interesting as well. So we have added 5 new units for Erebor. We've got a custom bodyguard for Gloin, which is Gloin's company. These are basically restatted King's warriors with some, custom stats and custom description, talking about how Gloin was appointed a senior commander of the armies of the kingdom under the mountain after the Battle of the Five Armies, and he, as senior commander, he needed to kind of get himself together a custom bodyguard and so on. So just wanted to say that again, along with so many of our changes, this one was contributed by mainly 2 people. A Rainy Day was the one who came up with most of the kind of ideas and like EDU entries and kind of did all the text work, which is awesome. And then a fellow called Bregathel did the writing for the new units. So thank you very much to both of them, because I think this stuff was really cool and they did a great job. So Gimli has also his own custom bodyguard called Gimli's Company, and these are restatted King's Axes instead of not King's Warriors. So they're pretty cool. King Dain has Dain's Royal Guard, of course, and these are restatted Axe Guard of Erebor. These are relentless, which is pretty interesting. I think these are going to be pretty strong. They also have throwing axes, I think. Yeah, so they're super cool. They're probably going to be really powerful. And as you can see, we've also changed the command of the units, because some of these bodyguards had way too high command and they were kind of just a bit overstated, to be honest. So now you can actually feel like, you're building up the stats of these generals rather than them kind of all starting out with the 10 command. And then finally Thorin, who is your heir, has Thorin's retinue, and these are Sons of the Fallen restatted. Most of these, they've got their stats changed, but of course they also have the size of their unit reduced to compensate. So, yeah, that's really cool. And then the final unit is a new siege unit, actually, called the Trollbane Ballista. And the Trollbane Ballista is interesting because it is the normal Dwarven Ballista, but it's got some custom textures. And rather than you getting, on huge unit size, 3 siege engines, you actually just get 1 with the Trollbane Ballista. However, it's significantly cheaper and easier to maintain than normal Ballista. It also does extra damage, extra HP damage, which means that it can one-shot any of the troll units if it actually manages to hit them, assuming they all have the same HP, which I think they do. But in any case, they should be highly effective against monster units, especially like the likes of cave trolls or snow trolls. So I tested these out a little bit. They were kind of fun. They were pretty fun, and they were pretty effective. But you can always still get the old ballista if you want. I believe that is still in the siege. Yep, normal ballista. So the normal ballista is 1000 with an upkeep of 180. The Trollbane Ballista is 250 with an upkeep of 50. So they're significantly cheaper. I don't think they have... Yeah, so they don't have the flaming missiles. That is one disadvantage. And do they have the same amount of ammo? We don't actually list the missiles here for the Dwarven Ballista. I'm not sure why. That must be a bug. But yeah, let me know. We'll play around with them. Let me know what you think. Maybe they're absolutely terrible and we need to adjust the stats on them, or maybe they're completely overpowered and we need to change that. So then the last thing is that the Dwarven Grudges script was changed slightly because The effects of it weren't really strong enough to incentivize you to actually resolve the grudges. So if you're not familiar with this script, it basically means that if you're playing any of the Dwarven factions and Gundabad, Dane's Halls, Erebor, Khazad East and Khazad West, if any of those settlements aren't held by a Dwarven faction, then all the dwarves are basically frustrated and upset about that. So they get a debuff, which is represented via a trait called Grudges Unresolved, and this, you can read the lore there on it, but essentially the effect is 20% unrest, 20% recruitment cost, -6 troop morale, and -20% income from mining. So that's quite a significant debuff. It shouldn't be crippling in that if you want to play a different way, then you can, but it's kind of just I guess, secondary objective for the Dwarven factions to kind of focus on. Also, if you resolve the grudges by like as Erebor taking all these settlements and helping Khazad, then you will kind of indirectly buff Eredluin because their trait will also get removed. And what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, so then the other thing is that if I go in here, I think there's the Hall of Awakening. Yep, so this has a new art as well. And this can only be built when you have completed the Grudges script. So you also get a custom general, which I think is in the normal script from before. But yeah, I think the effects of this have been updated, and you can get Hammers of Gundabad here as well. Oh yeah, so the Dwarven oh my god. The Dwarven grudges must be resolved before you can construct this building. So yep, another little incentive there. And I think that's everything. But yeah, thanks again to our community members for their contributions and help, because this never would have happened otherwise. And it's just really awesome. So good job, everyone. So the Anduin Vale have received a few little changes as well. We have new unit models for the I don't actually know what's the correct way to pronounce this, but the Eothed longbowmen, horse archers, footmen, and cavalry. And that was contributed by Jay Zinski. So thank you very much to him. He did an excellent job. So previously we did have the Sons of Marhuini, which is the kind of cultural / ethnic bodyguard of the Eothed in the Anduin Vale. But previously the old models were still there, but now we have the new models, which I can show off here. Got the cavalry, the horse archers, the footmen, and the longbowmen. So I really like these new models. They're really cool. And the other thing that I like about them is that they look and feel a bit more elite, so to say. So while the majority of Anduin's roster feels kind of wild, and kind of the units feel very rough and kind of like they've just picked up their weapons and kind of gone to fight or whatever, which is cool. That's great. I like that. But these just add a bit more professional kind of look and feel to their roster. So we've adjusted the stats accordingly and reduced some of the unit size and made the units a little bit better. So that should be interesting to play around with them. And thank you, Siu, for doing such a great job on the unit cards as well, as always. Anduin also got some updates to how they recruit bodyguard units, but I think I'm going to have a whole section on that one, so we'll come back to that later. What else did I want to show? Oh yeah, Bjorn's Hall didn't have the honey resource for some reason, which was kind of disappointing. And it also didn't have an apiary, so I just threw one in there because I thought that would be a bit more interesting. And here's a kind of preview of, I guess, what I'm going to talk about later is that from this apiary you can recruit skin changers. But yeah, that's what Anduin got, so thank you very much to Jasinski again for that great work. So it wouldn't be an AGO update without some changes to the Northern Dunedain, being the fan favorite that they are. So yet again, we have another community contribution. So many for 3.2. It's great. We have a new script where you can get 2 new custom generals, which might be familiar to anybody who has played either Lord of the Rings: The War in the North or Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, because you can now get Eredan as a custom general and Elagost as a custom general. If you don't know who they are, I'll put some pictures up so you can see. And they both have custom events, which I'm not going to spoil for you, but we can have a look at their bodyguards. So we've got Elagost here with a nice custom portrait, and he's got a unit of Dunedain troll slayers. And oh, how do you get Elagost in the first place? Yeah, I didn't mention that. So in order to get Elagost, you need to defeat an army of the goblins in somewhere around in this region here. Any army should do, just needs to be some kind of goblin army anywhere around here in this general area. So yeah, that's Elagost with his Dunedain troll slayers. Looking very powerful. Oh yeah, okay, so at first you're looking at this and it seems unhinged. Why they have 12 attack? Well, that's because another thing that's been done generally across the board has been a rebalance of the steel bow units. So I know this has come up kind of quite a lot in conversation where people want or prefer the steel bow units to just be a better ranger unit, the Dunedain steel bowman I'm talking about now specifically. I personally find that really boring, and I much prefer when units in different units, you know, perform some kind of special role, or they have more clearly defined strengths and weaknesses, because I don't know, it just makes it the game a lot more interesting to play than just getting units that are more powerful than the tier below them, and you end up kind of not really needing those lower tier units later on. So the first unit that we did that with, changing the stats appropriately, was the Dunedain steel bowman. But now I think Suki has gone and changed all of the stats of all the steel bow units in the mod. So I think that's some of the temple units, and I think the AA, let's just call them that so I don't get stunlocked on the pronunciation. The AA's Alcondras Sunders, I think, are also steel bow. Then you have this unit and the steel bowman as well. So they all should have kind of similar stats in that I think they have, so they have 12 missiles. So the number of missiles that they have compared to, say, let's look at the Wandering Company. Yeah, they have 32. So the steel bow units now have significantly less missiles, but you know, they've got 12 missile attack. Okay, that's not a good comparison versus, say, the Dwarven Travelers 3. That's because this is an Elven unit, and yeah, touch on that again later. But yeah, and they also have shield piercing. So what this means is that if you weren't familiar, I think before, through one of the recent AGO patches, armor piercing rounds also halved the shield stat, which made it that effective against armor attribute even more powerful than maybe you might think, because it doesn't just have the armor stat, it also has the shield stat, which was really overpowered, so that was changed. So that was basically, I think Finn did some inject an EOP that made it so that it didn't have the shield stat, and then he had the good idea of, okay, well, now what we can do is we can add back this concept of having the shield stat via shield piercing, which on the back end of the game is gunpowder units. So the steel bows are basically now gunpowder units, which means that they're both effective against armor and shield piercing. So they've got short missiles, but they pack a massive punch, and they're more going to be like, you know, the name says, Troll Slayers, going to be good for dealing with monster units or heavily armored units or heavily shielded units. So, yep, that's Elagost, really cool. And then we also have Eridan, who has a custom unit, a new custom unit with custom models. I think Maverick worked on this, so thank you very much to his contribution. And also, yeah, just while I have it in my head, these two scripts were made by our LSR, who came up with the ideas for them, and then the writing for the events as well, and the descriptions. So yeah, Eridan is one of the 3 main playable characters in War of the Ring. And yep, if you take Fornost, you can get Eridan as a custom general. And he's got Eridan's company, which are not steel bows, but they're kind of rangers with the shield and the sword, which is a cool combo, and they've actually got quite good armor as well. So yeah, I think they might even have an armor upgrade. I can check that quickly. Eridan's. Yes, they do. So they have 2. They have 1 armor upgrade, so they have 2 like levels. So if you get the armor upgrade on them, they will come with the different visual as well, which is really cool. What other Northern Dunedain things do we have? I think some of the ranger units got new unit cards. Which one specifically, I'm not sure, but that's in the change notes. The Reunited Kingdom got new event pictures. There is a note in here that says, "No lil bitch gobbo peace out strats," which I think is a change that Finn made so that the goblins, so that as Northern Dunedain you can't just get peace agreement with the goblins, because I think people were doing that. So you won't be able to do that anymore, which is good, because we don't like cheese like that. Trollmen warriors in the Reunited Kingdom barracks, you can't get them anymore. They've been replaced with the Muhad Beastmasters, just because I thought that felt a bit more appropriate than the Trollmen fighting in the Reunited Kingdom. It's a bit strange. And then the last thing is that there was a change made so that when Eldarion comes of age, he gets there's a kind of little event telling you, and he will get a custom portrait and a custom kind of biography trait, and he also will get Grey Company as his bodyguard, because it's kind of presumed that by the time he's come of age that you have, you know, done the Reunited Kingdom, and that Aragon he will have the Royal Company as his bodyguard. So, you know, Eldarion is getting his own kind of Grey Company now, as the rightful heir. Yeah, that's everything for Dunedain. That will be interesting. Hopefully my only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is that these bodyguard units might be too overpowered for how easy they might be, but you never know. At the same time, with the changes to Angmar, it might be hard to even get Fornost, and it depends what the goblins are up to here. Yeah, I'm not sure what the latest strats are for the Northern Dunedain. I don't know if it is to go in here and start attacking the goblins, so yep, that will be interesting. And yeah, make sure to let us know what you think about those Northern Dunedain changes. Thanks. So moving down south now, the AA or the Adunaim have received a few changes as well. They have received a rebalance to some of their units, just to kind of make them a bit more in line with what is actually happening with the unit model. And then I think some of their descriptions have also been updated accordingly as well, because I think a lot of the units were still using the old descriptions. So if you like the AA, check them out, because I think that writing was quite good, and that was done by Suki as well, so thank you very much. Another small thing is that they can now get some population growth and culture growth in the ports and merchant wharf building lines. That's just to give them a little bit of a boost, because it's quite hard to get culture sometimes as them, and it can kind of slow down significantly the ability to kind of expand and pick a new place to go, because you're kind of hindered, stuck waiting for the culture to go up. Another thing they have received is they have a new script, which we have called Traitors Generals, and this was done by a fellow called Juopo. So thank you very much to him for this. He went absolutely crazy with this one. He did like over 20 different custom, he made over 20 different custom generals that spawn in when you both capture and then build a conscription camp in these settlements. So if we look here, we can see it's spanning from Carandum, Finoble, Edoras, Minas Tirith, Helcarin up here in Dorwinion, Bjorn's Halls, Londare, Bree, Tharbad, of course, all the way up to Letash as well if you're up in Gundabad. So yeah, these are really cool. Actually, I'll show you a few of these. So I've captured Dorwinion here, and you get a custom general with a cool custom name. He's Canute of the Roadengi. His biography, his men called Canute the Iron Wall. They said a wall guarded by him could never be overcome. The day the Adunaim proved them wrong, he was given a choice, and he chose to serve the Adunaim, and his men followed. So some of the characters even have their own custom biography, which is cool. So you kind of role play, you know, conscripting, building the conscription camp, and kind of getting some maybe of the lesser morally inclined characters of whatever settlement to kind of sign up with you and betray their people, I guess. So that's one example. Another one in Letash, you've got the Wargrider here. You know, he's got a custom strategy model and a title and a custom bodyguard and everything. I think one of the ones that I liked was, yeah, in Metroith here, we've got Bent Scaladuct, who is basically, you know, some kind of merchant guy who, you know, he's not necessarily a commander, but he sees the opportunities that and where he can make money by working with the Adunaim who have come here into Erebor. So, you know, he was working with the Dunlandings that were here before, and before the Dunlandings, the Saraline, the Saraline Masters, it said here, sorry. So yeah, that's really cool. And there's just so many. There's over 20 different custom generals that you can get all over Middle-earth. So no matter where you're going to start, there's always going to be some new cool, interesting characters that you can get with cool custom bodyguards that should kind of make it a bit more interesting. And yep, I think that's everything. Oh, they can get the tier 3 swordsmith guild now, I think. What's it called? Yes, so they can get this. This was previously only available to Gondor, I think, but given that this faction is so kind of infantry focused, it made sense. Somebody had this suggestion for this one, and I implemented it, so thank you very much. And they can get their Abrazanim units here, and some of the kind of more elite units. And oh look, they can even get a special hero ability, but that's something else we'll talk about later. So yeah, thanks everyone for your contributions on the AA. So next to the AA, we have Harad. Harad don't have very much, just a few bits and pieces here. They can get the higher tier of ships in Umbar now, I think from the Black Haven. Yep. That was a small change, just to enable them to get those better ships if they go for Umbar. They have a less Arabic sounding name pool as well, I think, and the names of a few of the starting characters have been updated, I think, to just give them a bit more of a unique personality, because a lot of their identity was kind of just borrowed from I think the Moors and other factions from vanilla, so they kind of feel a bit more unique now, which is nice. So thank you Skywalker for that. He did came up with that new name pool, so that was great. The other new event that is happening in this area is a new small script called the 12. So the 12 are a really super rare one-time use mercenary unit of 12 men that can appear in Harad. A fellow called Resident Arnor Poster posted a new kit-bashed kind of unit model that he'd come up with, and I thought it was really cool and I was feeling inspired, so I came up with this script. Basically it's available to all factions, and at a random point in the campaign you get this pop-up talking about the 12. You know, they're known only as the 12 men, 12 warriors, 12 stories, and basically they're this kind of mythical, you can't really tell, is it a myth, are they real or whatever, and they're supposed to be kind of like 12 super elite warriors that are kind of roaming around you know, the Haradwaith, and kind of just selling their swords to whoever's buying. Not necessarily, I shouldn't say that because it's not necessarily about the money, but yeah, so basically any faction can recruit them. They don't appear as recruitable until the event pops up, so I've just scripted the event to appear now. You can see them. I haven't actually seen this new unit card that Sue made, but this is actually really cool because you can see here you've got, you know, the 12 characters. They actually have 12 soldiers in the unit. Their stats are really good. They don't cost anything to recruit, and they don't have any upkeep, so it's kind of like you might as well recruit them if you see them. You got the little backstory here, and yeah, so if you see that event pop up, you probably want to come down. It says here the 12 are now available as mercenaries in the Haven lands of Umbar, and then the rest of these regions, and they can only be hired once. So yeah, just a little flavor. I'm not sure if they will really have that much impact on, you know, in the battle, considering that there's only 12 men, but yeah, should be interesting. And yeah, I think that's it for Umbar. Or Harad. We've gone to Mordor now. Nothing crazy from Mordor. Few changes to things like auto-resolve. So some of the Nazgul were kind of overperforming a bit in auto-resolve relative to how they actually performed on the battle map, so that has been adjusted. Essentially, they're weaker in auto-resolve for the most part, and I think a few other units had their auto-resolve values changed as well, so some of the lower tier orc units. Mordor has also been made to... So if you're playing as Rune, Khand, or Harad, then the Mordor AI should just be a bit more chill and focus on defending its own settlements rather than focusing on kind of going out and attacking Gondor. That basically kind of just gives you the opportunity to actually fight them yourself, fight Gondor yourself and Dol Amroth, because what can end up happening is that if you're playing any of those other factions, by the time you actually get to Gondor and you want to start participating in the war and helping out and everything, Mordor is kind of just completely overrun it, which is not very interesting because it kind of feels like Mordor has kind of helped win without you really, without them requiring your help, basically. So obviously they're not going to get steamrolled by Gondor. It's not like, you're going to have to go in there and start defending Mordor from invasions of Gondor coming into like Mordor proper or anything like that, but they should just be a bit more chill. So yeah, I also made a change so that when Mordor is being played by the AI, I can't remember if this applies to the player or not, but there are certain recruit pools of what units are available from the Black Gate, because in the Black Gate you can get a bunch of different units here. So a bunch of units from like Harad, Rune, and Khand. So what units of these are actually available at game start is random now, so that should add a bit of fun kind of variability in how the Mordor campaign plays out for both player and AI. What else? Oh yeah, Dol Guldur have new unit models for the Mirkwood units, so not the Goblin Headhunters or the Dol Guldur units, but just these two units here. So you bashed some new goblins, so we've got the Mirkwood Goblins here, and the Mirkwood Hunters as well. They both have new unit models, so they're really cool. I think that's everything for Mordor. It was mostly just adjusting how powerful they were, because I think they were powerful and in a good place. Just needed them to slow down ever so slightly and just maybe chill a little bit. So hopefully these changes should help them just chill a little bit. They're not going to be any weaker. They should just kind of slow their expansion down a small bit. So yep, moving on. All right, we are back. I say that as if I went somewhere, but for you guys, I didn't go anywhere. For me, I went on holiday in between the last time I recorded. I went on a camping trip to Kerry in the south of Ireland, and it was amazing. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, if I sound a little different, that's probably why. And yeah, we're just gonna get stuck into Lorien next. Hope you guys enjoy. There's a lot of cool stuff for the elves here that we need to go over, so let's get stuck into it. So, first things first, as you can see, Lim here is no longer owned by Lorien at the start. Oh, just one quick thing as well. I didn't actually do a lot of these changes. They were made by CU, so... And I'm also not super familiar with the Elven faction, so if there's something I get wrong, it's very likely that I'm going to make a mistake while describing this or whatever, so just forgive me if I do. But yeah, Lim here is now not owned by Lorien at the start. think Sue's intention with this was, you can correct me in the comments, but was that he wanted to make Lorien feel kind of a bit more, maybe not secretive is the word, but it seems to be implied in the books that they're kind of self-contained within Lorien here itself, and you know, they're not necessarily off owning settlements outside of Lorien. So I like this. I think it's more thematic and it gives you more avenues for expansion, I guess. You don't have to go down south or kind of deal with defending that if you don't want to. So yeah, that's cool. So this is just occupied by some generic orcs. So if you do want to take it, it's not going to be massively difficult. And now you've got this new minor settlement here called Sarnal. So another new feature is that minor settlements have this little red book now, as opposed to a green book. So you can more easily identify what settlements are minor settlements, and then if you're not familiar with what they are, because I don't know, you haven't played AJO before, you can see here how they function differently from major settlements. So yeah, one settlement started with the minor settlement, so I think this is cool. I like this. The generals have new bodyguards as well, I believe.
Like the wind.
Sorry about that.
Scout the area.
Just trying to scroll through my notes. So Celeborn
For the light.
now has Berio e Thorinade, which I think they are like, yeah, they're from the Berio e. I'm never going to try and pronounce that, which is one of your normal units, and they've basically been loyal to him since forever, and they've witnessed the fall of Doriath, the Kinslaying, the War of Wrath, and the inevitable sink of Beleriand, and so on. So this is a cool unit, really cool. The stats we'll probably go over. Actually, what I'll do is I'll explain the stats changes before I show these, and then because that makes more sense. So you'll already know what the stats are about before we talk about this. But yeah, you can see a stats there. And then Celeborn, no, we just looked at Celeborn. Haldir has Sylvan Edtarin. And they're sword and board archers. I think this is like the March Warden bodyguard, so you might get this with a few other units as well. This one is... Yeah, so this is the bodyguard of Haldir, and then when you get Rumil and Orphan, it's their starting bodyguard, because that is one of Lorien's scripts, is Rumil and Orphan. So when they spawn, you get the new, you get that unit as the bodyguard. And then, okay, so then it looks like when you complete their new quest, because they have a new quest. So Haldir, Rumil, and Orphan must reach 500 kills individually in order to be promoted. And then when they get promoted, that's when they get Galadrim Chosen. And I think there's a new tab, maybe? For these characters? No.
Come, my brothers.
Details. Okay, no, maybe not. I thought there was. In any case, anyway, you can see that how many kills they have here. So he needs 500. He's got 0 at the moment.
Be wary.
Okay, so that's the bodyguard units. Then Lorien has some new units as well. They have a new kind of militia unit called the Dirith or Dirith. And these guys are quite cool, actually. I like the lore that CU came up for these. They're basically kind of they're like militia, but not quite. They're kind of like the craftsmen and tradespeople that you need to start establishing a settlement. So you've got your builders, your masons, your carpenters, and the like. And obviously they're not professional soldiers, but they're still elves. So their units stats still reflect that, and they're recruitable from, I think, the town hall, which is cool. If I go here, go into town hall, yeah, so they're recruitable from the first and the second tier of the town hall. But then interestingly, they go away. on the third tier, because in their description it's basically saying that the town is not in need of their services anymore, and they move on to maybe another new settlement that needs their help getting set up and established. So yeah, that's cool. I think they're a nice little addition. I think they're also available to the Woodland Realm. I'm not 100% sure. I think they are. And yeah, sorry, they have a bow as their primary and a spear, a two-handed spear as their secondary. Lorien Dirith can only be recruited in Castle and City Town Hall and from the tier 1 and tier 2. Yeah, okay. So maybe this unit is just for Lorien, and I think the Woodland Realm might have something similar. Another new unit is the Galadrim Guardians, which I think are in the barracks. Galadrim Guardians, yeah. So you've got you're probably familiar with the glaives. I think all the Galadrim units also got a touch up to their texture as well, which is cool. But now I've got this new spear and shield unit, which is cool because that makes sense for Lorien to have a defensive unit like that. And yeah, they're available from the barracks. They are the Galadrim Guardians. A few other changes to some other units. The Gurdhinen and the Gurvaleg, they're only recruitable now in castles. The Gurdhinen can only be recruited in the town hall building, the tier 2 town hall castle building. They also got slightly changed. If I go to the town hall and I go to castle hall, and we were talking about the Gurdhinen. So they now have AP throwing knives as their primary weapon, and they've got this kind of dual sword as their secondary weapon. So I don't think I think this is the first unit that I've seen with these throwing knives. Sounds a bit crazy, but I think it's actually kind of cool. And for me, it's one of those things where, yeah, it's a little bit crazy, but it's also not completely so crazy that it doesn't feel like Lord of the Rings or Middle-earth anymore. And it's interesting enough to warrant adding because it's like a cool new projectile type that no other unit has. So I think it's cool. I could see something like Thieves of Tharabad having this animation set as well. I think that would be cool. Maybe some kind of other ruffian or bandit style unit that could be cool. But yeah, no, this is really nice. I like this a lot. So good job, Sue. And thank you. I think the animations must have come from some other mod. Unfortunately, I don't know. I think he took them from Reforged, but I don't think they originally came from Reforged. So good job also whoever made those animations. So that is the Gurdhinen, and then the Gurvaleg are different as well. This is what he's written about them there. So they're from the tier 3 castle town hall. They can only be recruited in forest regions. They now have dual swords as secondary, as you can see in the unit card. And they have better range, accuracy, and ammo. So that's the Gurvaleg. I don't really know what they were like before, so I can't really comment on that too much. And then Yavanna's Chosen have been changed as well. Yavanna's Chosen. So they are now a two-handed spear unit with a halberd animation, whereas before I think they had like glaives or something. And they also don't have spear wall anymore. But yeah, they're really cool. I like this unit a lot. I added some special voice lines for them recently, and as part of this patch, I think I did that as part of this patch. So yeah, they have custom voice lines, and they also, when you do the union as Lorien, you get Yavanna's Chosen custom general with custom voice lines. Jesus, voice break. Custom voice lines and custom portrait and biography and traits and stuff. So that'll be nice as well. Anything else here about Lorien I'm missing? No, I think that's everything. So just Lorien compared to as part of the overall balance changes that Sue did to the elves and the dwarves. The thing that separates Lorien from the other factions here is that they have 1 to 2 extra missile damage compared to the other Elven archers. All their units also gain shield piercing arrows. And yeah, that's it. That's Lorien. The other scripts are still the same, you know, the Union script and the Allegiance of Old, which I explained earlier on. Reinforcement of men? I don't think I mentioned that one. I think that just means that, let's have a look, what does it say? Small groups of burnings would come and establish themselves in the Elven realm after the alliance is made. Okay, yeah, so I think if you have an alliance with the Anduin Vale, you can recruit some burnings in here. Well, that's separate from the Allegiance of Old script, I think. And then obviously you get Ents from Isengard. That's how it's always been. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoy those Lorien changes. Okay, moving on to the Woodland Realm next. So I think they got kind of similar treatment in that you don't start with Emin Nufuin anymore, which you used to, I believe. And so they start with Thranduil's Halls and Tor Filin now. They sorry, I got distracted by this building area. I've never seen this before, but it's interesting. So yeah, they've got start with the 2 settlements now. And overall, I think that the reason why to maybe reduce the amount of settlements that you start with as the elves is because you're quite powerful. You're more powerful than you were before the changes to the stats. So this kind of just helps slow things down a little bit and make sure that you're not kind of steamrolling all over the place very quickly. The other thing that changed was Thranduil's bodyguard now has AP when they didn't before, which makes sense. He does have AP against, yeah, he does effective against armor. There is a new unit. This is similar to the Lorien unit that I was talking about earlier. It's the Woodland Tierness, it's called. In the castle hall. Woodland Tierness, yeah. So again, this is similar to the Lorien unit. It's slightly different though because it's got a axe as the secondary instead of a spear. But it has a bow as the primary. And again, this is recruitable only in the tier 1 and tier 2 town hall. Then Legolas has a new bodyguard unit. He has
Come on! Swiftly! Stay in the trees!
Pillin e Fairwear, arrows of the woods, and I think they're kind of more his companions, and they're quick, agile, and lightly armored. So they are, they're a copy of Woodland Sentinels, but they're slightly stronger. Okay, cool, interesting. And then Legolas can upgrade into his old bodyguard unit, the Woodland Rangers. Watcher of Mirkwood. So yeah, so similar to Haldir, he needs to get 500 kills to get his upgraded bodyguard. Again, probably just to give another new interesting script and some progression. And who doesn't like Legolas anyway? Legolas is cool. The other thing that the settlements got was they got some new landmark buildings. So we've got the Forest Gate of Mirkwood, which gives you 1 free upkeep slot, and the Elf Path, which gives you a small population growth bonus and an increase in trade. So that's cool. And yeah, I think that's everything for the Woodland Realm. Let me check. Yep, that's it. Alright, so the High Elves got a few little changes as well. There is now a new tab specifically for the Mirdan script, kind of explaining what you need to do to kind of progress through the script, what buildings you need, what other requirements like having an alliance with Khazad, and then the buildings and units that you actually get access to as a result of completing that script, which is cool. So that was done by Voya. Nice job on that. I think he used the same UI for the Allegiance of Old script, but yeah, this is really well done and feels seamless compared to, like, if we look at a tooltip in the base game here and then a tooltip here, they're really similar. So good job on that one, Voya. The other High Elf changes are the generic bodyguards got a another armor level. The Lindar bodyguard upgrade got a new look. Galdor's company is a new bodyguard unit, which I don't think we have yet. I think that's part of oh, interesting. There's a bug. I will put that on the list of things to fix. Okay, we'll just retry that one for now. To get rid of it. Yeah, Galdor script, so I guess he has a new custom bodyguard. The High Elf military buildings are, you can now stack 2 units from most units, so I think that's going to be like in here the amount of units that you can, the capacity. So yeah, that's that. And then what else do we have? Glorfindel has a new starting bodyguard, or it was changed, probably changed. You get a little pop-up event now when you do stuff with the excavating the Mirdan as part of the Mirdan script. And then it's a bit less random now, and then also the garrisons for the AI were expanded in Imladris. No, sorry, in Mithlond, Harland, and Forland, so they should be a bit less likely to fall when being held by the AI. And then the other thing is that the Khazad units have got new visuals. There's a little graphic here that I will show, but just showing you them in game here. They look super cool. Sue did a really good job on them. So you still got your kind of traditional volunteers and sentries, but then the Legion and Khazad lines now have updated models. And the Dragon Slayers also have a new model. I don't think it's updated here in the card yet, but they have a new model that Cohen made as well. So yeah, that's High Elves and Khazad. Alright, not that many factions left, rather. Just a few, so we're just going to go through them rapid fire here. First up, Gondor and Dol Amroth have a new building, also available to the Reunited Kingdom. It is the hunting station. This is like a, I guess, like a sea hunting station rather. So it's only available to be built in coastal regions. It gives a little bit of culture, because you're kind of practicing, you know, traditions and cultural stuff here in the region. Population growth bonus from the food, and then you can kind of sell stuff on, so you get an increase in tradable goods. And that has 2 tiers, so starts off with the hunting station and it upgrades into the whaling station. And to build the whaling station you need a ballista maker, because it's implied that you've got ballistas set up on the boats that you're hunting the whales with. And you get a bit of building income there as well. So yeah, I think somebody suggested that a long time ago. Might have been Leo or something like that, I can't remember, but I thought it was cool and just felt like adding a new building. So the other thing that Gondor got was that their Reunited Kingdom script there was something wrong with it. I don't know what was wrong with it. Everything else was working fine. There was just something small with it not working, where in some circumstances when you got Faramir or Boromir to Rivendell, it just wouldn't fire for whatever reason. So I rewrote that from campaign script into Lua script, because that's an EOP enables us to do that. So there might be a few bugs, because I usually make some kind of mistake when I'm doing these things. I did test it and everything seemed fine, but there's probably going to be something wrong with it. But give it a try and let me know. Fortunately, the thing with using Lua instead of campaign script is that you can change the script. If you write a script with campaign script, it's baked into the save file, and we can't change it. If we give you a new campaign script, it's not loaded into your already existing save file, but that's not the case with Lua, so if there's any problem, we can fix it halfway through. So yeah, it should function pretty much the same. I don't think I made that many changes. And then I also added the ability for AI Gondor to form the reunited kingdom. Now I have it set up so that this can only happen in like really extreme circumstances. Maybe they're too extreme. We'll have to see. I'll be surprised if anybody actually sees this in their campaign, because I think I've made it a bit too extreme. But the conditions are like Denethor needs to be dead, because he's not going to, go and find Aragon and get him to come and reform the reunited kingdom. Minas Tirith needs to be held. Aragon needs to be alive. Boromir and Faramir need to be alive, because the implication is that, Gondor is kind of on its last legs, obviously, because Mordor is Mordor, and they're trying to find some solution, come up with some kind of solution, and the idea is that they try and go and seek out Aragon and kind of, I guess not invite, it doesn't really sound right, but get him to come and form the reunited kingdom and save them and help them. So yeah, you need all those conditions, and then I think it needs to be Arnor needs to be formed already as well, and there needs to be like a random chance that it can happen or something. So yeah, it'll be interesting if it does. I think it would be cool if you were playing Mordor and all of a sudden, you've got Gondor, you think you've got Gondor on the ropes, and then next minute they unite with Arnor and form the reunited kingdom. I think that'd be really cool. So we'll see how that plays out. Bree is next. Actually, I will turn on this if you didn't already know. It should be on already. Don't know why it's not working. Anyway, developer mode there, and that gives you toggle fog of war and perfect spy. So Bree have a new Dwarven commander strat model, which is a modified version of one of the Ered Luin ones, rather than the old one, which was really ugly. And then they got some new custom portraits in their pool, so their generals should look slightly different. Maybe we can see one. Do they even get settlements in auto expansion? No. So yeah, that's Bree. Dunland. I don't have this in the changelog, but I just remember it popped into my head, or maybe it's in already in the release versions. But they can use the Crebain like a Palantir. So it's kind of like Byrig has a Palantir. This building here, Wolfshall, enables you to use the Crebain like a Palantir. It works pretty much exactly the same. I think it has a smaller radius, but maybe a shorter cooldown or something. I also made I'm not going to try and pronounce this one, the Skrillinger. I made them relentless because people were saying that they thought they were a little bit disappointing, so hopefully when you get them, I think they're kind of pretty late game unit. Making them relentless should be kind of interesting and give them a bit more oomph, so that should be good. And then I think CU updated some of the Dunland unit cards as well. Oh, and they also got a few new portraits in their pool. Don't think I changed any of the custom ones, but just there was a few weird portraits in their portrait pool that got updated. Dale next. Dale just got two small things. They got oh, that's the recruitable bodyguard units. Okay, no, we'll come back to that later. Then just Dorwinion they got slight changes to the Leofthuda units. The armor of, not the retainers, I think it was the cavalry unit, which should be in here. Yeah, the Fire Rider's armor was 7, it got brought down to 5. Just to be a bit more in line with what it should be, because it was a bit strong. And the Shield Bearer and the Retainer stats got changed a bit as well, yeah. And the Justiciar's upkeep got fixed. So one other quick thing that I forgot about Dunland is that they also have a new event that can randomly pop up, and it gives them the ability to so basically there's like a warg general, mercenary, goblin, whatever, roaming around, come down from the Misty Mountains, and he's coming through Dunland, and you have the opportunity to either hire him as a mercenary, or you can pay him a little bit of extra money and he will actually teach you how to breed wargs. So it gives you the ability to recruit wargs in from Wolf's Hall. If you do that, the is it Oath Keepers, I think? What's the name of the unit that I'm thinking of? Huntmasters, sorry, Huntmasters. The Huntmasters will not be happy with you, and you will get reduced recruitment or replenishment rates for them, because, you know, they don't like the idea of, they think you breeding wargs and using them is weird, and it goes kind of against Dunland's ancestral ways, so they don't approve of that. But if you don't you know, start breeding the wargs, then they will be pleased, and I think that increases your replenishment of the Huntmaster units themselves. So yeah, just a small little event for Dunland, with 3 separate choices. It can just randomly pop up at any stage, I think. Okay, so next thing we're going to start talking about are some of the new scripts. These are personally my favorite things, the kind of scripts and features. So the first one is, we have implemented so bodyguard units, they've always been recruitable, but there's always been this weird behavior for certain factions where, because we have this system of the ethnic bodyguards, or, you know, sub-race cultural bodyguards, whatever you want to call them, that when you recruit the default general's bodyguard, he can sometimes change into another unit. So what would happen is, as Anduin, I would recruit skin changers. When the general is created, he gets assigned a trait. So he's either a woodman, he's a store, he's from the Eothied, or he's a Bjorning. And based on each one of those things that he's assigned, he would then get a new bodyguard. But the problem was that it would always show up as skin changers, regardless if he was a woodman. So you never really knew what you were getting when, you know, you queued up this unit. It was confusing, and that always bothered me. But fortunately, we have found a good solution to that. And it was actually really simple, frustratingly so. But anyway, we have a solution to it. So now when you recruit skin changers, you will get skin changers. If you recruit store council, you will get store council. I don't think there's any other ones that I can show immediately. Yeah, that's okay. So we've gone and done that for a bunch of factions. So for example, if you are playing as the Anduin, you can recruit your skin changer generals from the apiary. If you want a store council general, for whatever reason, maybe you want a kind of governor. This unit is horrific, but if you wanted a governor, you could recruit one here. But they're only available in this River Smiles, or Smiles, unique building here in Fenhome. So you can only get them in Fenhome. If you want to recruit the Woodman, bodyguard. They are called the Mercivore. And I think, yeah, so you need the tier 3 barracks for them. And you need to be in the... you need forest region for them as well. You can see their stats there. And then if you wanted an Eothiad general, you would need, I think, the... it's the barracks as well, but I think you need an alliance with Rohan. That's it. Yeah, Sons of Marhuini, that's it. So you need an alliance with Rohan, which you don't have a game start, and if you get that, then you can recruit the Sons of Marhuini. So you've got the 4 different ethnic, subrace, bodyguards, whatever, and you can now recruit them all separately in a unique and interesting way. And that doesn't just apply to Anduin, that applies to all the other factions that have it as well. So, for example, for Rune, their ethnic bodyguards are available from the Khan's tent, but as you progress through the script. So you can get the Aralad bodyguard when you have integrated the Aralad clan, or you can get the Balchoth, or Balkoth, whatever, unit from, or bodyguard from the tent when you have incorporated them as part of your script. If you're playing Dunland, you can get all your different bodyguards from different buildings. So if you're playing more closely aligned with Isengard, you can get the...
Is that what you want?
what are they called? Don't tell me now. It's not Orthanc Guard. Oh, it's going to annoy me now. I can't remember what they're called, but the Eisendrach. Eisendrach, that's it. The Eisendrach General's Bodyguard, you can get that if you're more closely aligned with Isengard. I think you get it from their guild building. And then if you want, you know, the Dunforgoil one or the Wolffinger one, you need to build like the Raidlands building, I think. You can get the normal one from Brehen's Oathband is just available in Wolf's Hall, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's been done for a bunch of different factions in interesting ways. I think it's actually pretty cool. Angmar has it as well. I'm pleased with how it turned out. So yep, thanks. I think Voya implemented the logic for that for the Angmar stuff. So good job, Voya. Next cool new feature, I guess, is we kind of reworked the armor upgrades a little bit. So in AJO 2.1, which was based off DAC 4.6, they had the advanced armor, which I'm going to be honest was really confusing, and I'm not very intuitive, and I think that's probably why it was removed in DAC V5, but I think that was still present. It might be in 3.1, or no, I think I removed it before then. But anyway, so I removed it, but we never came up with something to actually, some other way to get those armor upgrades that you got from that advanced armor. So instead, I've moved a bunch of them to part of their scripts. So for example, if Dunland and Enedwaith want to get their highest tier of armor, they need to side with Saruman. Angmar can get the highest tier of armor if they side with... if the Witch King is back, and they get another armor upgrade if they actually keep the One Ring, which is the same for a bunch of other factions as well. Like Rune can get that. Mordor, Dol Guldur, and Moria can get the highest tier of armor if Sauron gets the ring. Harad gets one tier from the Unite the Tribe script and another one for forming the Empire of the Haradwaith. Isengard get one for keeping the One Ring. Can't get one if they stay loyal to Sauron. Anduin get theirs from siding, or from keeping the High Pass and keeping the road safe, that script. And then Dorwinion get theirs from siding with Sauron. They get the Morgul Craft get the Morgulcraft upgrade. And then also Breeze was bugged, where they just got the tier 5 set, which meant that they could get the Arnor visuals, I think, from just game start, which was just a bug. So that's been fixed as well. And they can get theirs now, I think. They can get the Arnor one, obviously, from the Dunedain route, but then they can also get one from the Merc path and the and siding with Saruman in the Scouring script, I think. And that's been renamed to Imported Steel or something like that, I think, to represent that. And then the armor upgrade tier for keeping the one ring, so the highest one is called Forbidden Craft. And then I think I made a few changes to the other ones that I can't quite remember, but you'll see them in game. They should be a bit more flavorful. And yeah, that's it really for the armor upgrades. I'm glad we got that sorted because there were lots of people asking about that. You know, why can't I get a Varan crafted armor and whatever for Dorwinion? And it felt bad because you just have to say you can't, which is not a very nice answer. So yeah, if anyone has any other ideas for other factions maybe that I missed or I didn't cover it in the update, then let me know and we could take a look at them as well. Okay, I'm going to go over the some UI and text changes now. So I took a stab at updating how the spy network map looks. There was nothing terribly wrong with it before. It just didn't really feel like it aligned with how we have some of the other UI elements. So I tried to kind of make it feel a bit more seamless. Maybe it didn't work, maybe it did, maybe I prefer the old way. In any case, so you've got your information here, which is kind of similar to before. This should be all properly readable now. You can upgrade your networks as you always could before, blah blah blah. You can steal your map information and so on. So yeah, that just got a small change. And another big change was that, oh, so this is how it looks in developer mode actually. You can see that a lot of the factions colors were changed. And I guess part of what prompted me to have a look at changing them was that I was doing one of the things. I don't really play the game as much anymore, but I do like running AI campaigns and kind of just seeing what's happened and what's happening in the world. And when I was doing that one day, I was kind of just looking at the map when it was actually when I was doing the spy network, this UI update. And I was kind of just like thinking about how some of these colors they're just bad. They're just like they don't feel the color, the primary color and the secondary color didn't match in a kind of aesthetically pleasing way. It didn't really feel like they were very weirdly, some of them were too bright, and I don't know, they just didn't really feel very Tolkien-esque or, you know, like they fit Lord of the Rings to me personally. So I started changing one or two of them, and then once I changed one or two of them, then I kind of went down a rabbit hole of changing them all. So first things first, if you're looking at this and you absolutely hate it, fine, no problem, I understand. There is an option in here and you can use the old colors, no problem. I can turn this on, go back in here, open up the map, and you can see the old colors are here. So look, there's your old colors if you want a comparison, and then we'll turn off that setting. And we can see the new colors. So for the most part, things are pretty much the same. Major things that have changed, I guess, are Rune are not orange anymore. Partly because they were just orange, kind of quite similar to canned, and I don't know, just didn't really do anything for me. I also have changed their stupid Chinese dragon symbol on their banner, which bothered me to no end, and I've replaced it with some, this is supposed to be like Iranian or Persian symbol for like a dragon's eye or something. maybe Google was completely wrong and that's not the case at all, but I don't know. I thought this was cool and it fit the faction a bit more. So yeah, that's changed. What other big changes are there? Enedwaith is not this kind of crap looking brown and it's a bit more of like a mustard, and they've got the blue secondary color to represent the rivers. Same with, you know, Rune's primary color is a bit more golden now. Erebor and Dale have their colors are a bit more vibrant, and then they've got the secondary kind of gold coloring here, which I think fits them a bit better. Anduin have this darker salmon with a dark green secondary color here, and then Mordor and Maria are much the same, but they have Dunland also has this black secondary color, so it's a bit more easier to identify their borders. Borders. Then the High Elves are a bit more purple rather than dark blue to represent, not to represent anything, but actually because they were too similar color to other factions on the map, and it was messing things up a bit. Eredluin are much the same, Bree are much the same. Yeah, so most factions are much the same. Oh, I think the Rohan is a bit nicer now as well. You can see in the banner it's a bit more green rather than brown, which I like. Yeah, most factions, like I said, are pretty similar. Angmar has gone back to its old colouring here, much to the disappointment of Armour right now, I can imagine. So that's a mistake that I need to fix. But yeah, that's the new colours. Hopefully you like them. I think they're cooler. New Spy Network menu here, which you can... This has always been here, but if you turn on developer mode, you can see this. It shows interesting things like temperature and borders and where the AI is trying to invade from. And this one is cool as well, income. So you can see here that Isengard is right now. These are like the most popular, best regions for income, stuff like that. But yeah, new UI stuff. Okay, keeping going with the new UI stuff. We now have updated a new banner for details and attributes, so they don't share the loot one. And each culture has new ones for that. I talked about the colors and the spy network. We have this. Let's talk about this. So we've got two new things here that Finn added, which are really cool. So what we can do is we can grab any unit. We can select the unit card. We can press X, go to details, and we can give them a custom alias. So we could give these Dunedain Rangers. We could call these Finn's, I don't know, Super Rangers. Wow, that's not even cool or funny. It's Finn Super Rangers. And you can see here they have their own custom alias, which is really cool.
My lord.
So go back here, you can say Medics, Power Rangers. And you can see that it's changed again. So yeah, really cool feature. Job Finn on that one. And then this is a new page, a new tab called the Attributes tab. And this is actually something that's bothered me for a long time. Finn did this again, but he did a really good job on this, because one of the things that bothers me is that for a start, the space available on this screen here is like the mercenaries is taking up way too much space, you know, and the traits and retinue section isn't given enough space. But also you have this massive list of traits, and they all have effects, and there is no way to know, okay, like what is the totality of all these effects. Yeah, I know you've got this section here with the command, renown, authority, acumen, whatever, but there's a lot more that's going on than just these four statistics. So this is what this screen is attempting to address. It divides up your total effects that your character has, and then categorizes them by battle effects and campaign effects. So it basically means that you can, at a glance, really easily tell what your general is good at. So we can tell that Aragon has 15 command, and he's getting plus 16 troop morale. Like, what? How would you... That's such a good, insane buff, and we would not maybe have known where the hell that is coming from. But now we can hover it, and we can see that, okay, yeah, we know he has plus 16 troop morale, and we can see exactly what is giving him that. So we don't have to manually go and add everything up, from the traits. We can also see he's got movement points. These are all the things that he's good at on the campaign map. Oh, he's actually good at taxes. He gets plus 8% taxes. But if we go to another general, let's try, I don't know, Erebor. What's Erebor good at? So he's got plus 10% law and plus 5% taxes. Okay, so maybe he doesn't want to be a governor, and maybe, Aragon wants to be a governor instead. So, yeah, that's really cool. Another thing that I think I talked about, you probably heard me talk about before, but it shows the terrain malice of a unit and the terrain bonus. So what terrain it's better in, shrubs, forest, or barren. So one thing is that these units, I didn't actually change these values, I just added this to the description. So there may be some really crazy values out there where you might see a unit with plus 5 in forest, and it makes absolutely no sense for why that would be there. So if you do see that, please let us know and we can fix it, because it wasn't feasible for me to go through and change these terrain bonus and malice, or boni and malai, of every single unit in the mod, because that's just not feasible. So yeah, let us know if you find some weird ones that. What else has changed? Oh, there's some tech stuff. It's not super interesting. Yeah, you can see in the faction overview about how to recruit your bodyguards. That's not that interesting either. Oh, the minor settlements have a green book or a red book instead of a green book. So say Vinyar. See here, it's got a red book instead of a green book. And then we just updated some of the descriptions on the faction selection screen as well in the main menu. But yeah, that's about it for UI stuff. Okay, on to some other scripts and mechanics now. So when you gift a settlement, at the moment when you gift a settlement,
must not be broken.
Jesus, Aragon. When you gift a settlement to another faction, usually it has mercenary units or some rebel units in it, and it's just crap and weird and it doesn't make any sense. Well, now they will get a randomly generated general and a randomly generated bodyguard, or not bodyguard, army. So similar to how the auto expansion works, it uses the same generator logic for that, and it will add in a small little army to the settlement that you gift to the AI. So that will mean that that the settlement won't die straight away, and if you want the AI to actually hold somewhere, it will actually make sense to gift it to them, because they won't lose it immediately because they'll actually have an army there. Another new thing that was added was that for orc factions, they have a building which allows them to throw races. It's called races in the game, but the kind of localization for it in the mod is that it's pit fights. So they're kind of having these pit fights. I can't find exactly what building it's from. I think it might be one of the guilds, but in any case, they can throw pit fights. You can do those monthly, yearly, or daily. Now, because of a bug in how the game works, it doesn't actually increase the chance if it's daily, yearly, or monthly. In the settlement, you just need the building, but there's a small 1% chance for a general to be created. It's not really created, but it's an orc or human or whatever that was participating in this pit fight, he gets promoted to be a general. It's kind of like a man of the hour, I suppose, actually. And his bodyguard is randomly generated as well. So it's also using the same logic as the auto expansion. So they have the potential to get bodyguard units that you wouldn't normally get. And I didn't think about this, but when I was making the script, but somebody pointed out that you could in theory get like an Olokai general, for example, or I don't know, it could be an Olokai general or it could be Orc Band for your general's bodyguard. But either way, it'll be fun, and you should be able to get some cool, interesting bodyguards. And they also get a special trait and epithet as well, those generals do. So you might see them, and the script also works for AI, for the AI, so you might see some champion of the pit walking around and he's got, some crazy cool or rubbish bodyguard. So yeah, that's for Northmen, or for not for Northmen, for orcs, orc factions, Isengard, and Angmar as well. The other thing was the hero abilities, yes. So I added a bunch of new hero abilities to the mod. I added 5 new hero abilities. There is Curse, which is one for whites. So like Hunvorn, if he is up here, he has this special ability. It's got 4 different sound effects, and that's just for kind of whites and white generals. There is a new one called Drums, which is for orcs, and I gave that to a bunch of starting generals as well. There is another one called Focus, which I'm not going over the effects now, but the other most of them aren't anything majorly interesting, but the Focus one is I like this one because it's, for a start, it's generic, so load of factions have this one, but it increases your kill chance in combat dramatically, but for a very short period of time. But then you permanently get a fatigue malus to your units. So the idea with it is that you're kind of forcing your units to concentrate, but that concentration requires a lot of energy. But if you choose the perfect time to activate it, then you're going to get really good value out of it because it increases the kill chance by like 3 or something like that. So you're 3 times as likely to kill for that like 10-15 second window. But then once it's over, your units are going to be really tired, and it could potentially, if the battle doesn't finish quickly, it's going to have long-term consequences. So a bunch of new units or characters have that at the beginning of the game. Blizzard is a new one for Gundabad and dwarves, and then there was one new one for the Dunedain called House of Telcontar, which is for Elisar, so when Aragorn gets crowned, and for Eldarion as well when he comes of age. You can also now get hero abilities from buildings. So if we look at this temple here for Moria, for example, there it says here in the description, there's a small chance for characters to acquire the hero ability Legion Unleashed. And that is the case for 17 hero abilities in total. You can get them from all sorts of different places. Like Angmar can get the Blizzard hero ability. You have a small % chance to get the Blizzard hero ability from the upgraded tower here. If you're playing as Gondor, you can get... do they have the building here? No. Like the governor's education and military education buildings, there's a small chance to get leadership from them. Dunland can get stuff. I can't remember what Dunland can get. Do they even have one? I'm trying to think. What other ones? Dwarves, you can get it from mines, I think. Let's see, do Khazad have a mine? Pub. That'd be funny if it was from the pub. No mines in Khazad. Okay, this is a terrible example, but yeah. You can get them in all sorts of different ways. You'll see. It'll say in the building description. And yeah, there's a small chance for a general that's inside that settlement to get that hero ability. And a little event will pop up to tell you as well. Yeah, I think that's all the new scripts and mechanics for now. A few things about guilds. So the Thieves Guild, everyone said it was crap. Yeah, it kind of was a bit crap. So I made it give a lot more spies. So that should be interesting. Just need to add some money here. So another thing was for guilds. People were having problems where essentially they would keep getting offered a guild that they didn't want. And it was really frustrating because they were trying to get a certain guild in a settlement and they didn't want it. It just kept coming and over again. So what I've done is I've added 2 little buttons in here in the guild UI. So you can invest in a guild or you can banish a guild. So if you invest in a guild, you need at least 10,000 gold and it will give you a small amount of progress to you can see here it scales based on the tier, but some progress towards getting this certain guild. So if you've got some extra money spare that you want to spend and you want to kind of like invest in a certain guild because you really want the effects or whatever, then you can invest in the guild. Another thing you can do is you can banish the guild. So banishing the guild will completely reset the progress back to 0. So if I kept getting offered a Merchant's Guild in Fenestrinen and I didn't want it because I wanted the Archer's Guild, well, now you can banish the Merchants or the Warriors or whatever and kind of reset the guild there. And then I also just slightly adjusted the amount of points that certain guilds need because, say for example, if you were playing Bree, you just kept getting the Blightweed farms over and over again and you didn't really get any of the other guilds because it wasn't quite perfectly balanced. So now it's perfectly balanced and everything will be fine. Moving on to sounds now. So one of the things that has been requested or quite a lot has been a copyright-free sound pack, because for some people that do YouTube content with the mod, if they include Lord of the Rings music, it blocks the videos in certain regions and it's difficult for them to monetize it and so on. So, and also I've seen some YouTubers who have tried to install the V5 one and completely bricked their save and it's just a disaster. So we can't be having that. So I've made a copyright-free sound pack for AGO V3 now. And I've also created a new kind of installer here for it with instructions. So you just need to go into the mod folder and there's a batch file called copyright free music. And if you just follow the instructions here, it will guide you through what's going to happen. And the TLDR of it is that you just need to download this copyright free music pack first from this link. If you make your own one or whatever, if you could share it with me, that would be cool, and we can add it here so that people have a variety of ones to pick from rather. And then you just follow the instructions here and everything should work fine. Other sound things that have changed. We have a new orc battle announcer voice, actually. Yeah, this one is cool. This guy called Wee-san said that he wanted to do some new voice lines for the orc battle announcer, which was quite specific. But I'm really glad he did do them, because if you're not familiar or you don't know, the orc battle announcer in Third Age and DAC and whatever is just it's one of the original vanilla ones, but pitched down, so he sounds like he has a really deep voice, and he's an orc, but in reality he's just some Englishman, and it's not very immersive at all. So the new ones that he's done are really, really good, and I'll just break here and I'll play some of them so you can hear.
Their cowardly general flees before us. The enemy tower has reached our walls. Our forces are running. The battle is swinging in our favor. There's no hope left for them now. Those sneaky maggots have stolen victory. But they won't be so lucky next time.
And yeah, so good job to him. They sound great. I'm really happy with them. Another few things, bits and pieces, are the Rohan generals now have proper voice lines. The Nazgul have Rohan generals for Gondor have proper voice lines. Nazgul have updated custom selection sounds, and then we just fixed a bunch of missing selection sounds for some generals. And yeah, that's all the sound stuff for now. Traits and ancillaries now. So I talked about the Pit Champion trait for the Orc factions. That's new. The Nomad trait. So Khand now get a new Nomad trait. So when they were siding with the Blue Wizards, they were getting a trait. They were keeping their old trait, Man of Melkor or whatever, which wasn't very appropriate. So I added a new Nomad trait. So they'll lose the Man of Melkor trait and they'll gain the Nomad trait instead. The Old Age trait now triggers more at higher ages. You'll all be so pleased to hear, because I know everybody loves the Dying of Old Age script. Personally, all jokes aside, I think it's great. I love it, but I know it's a bit controversial. So Finn made some changes previously in a previous patch, but now it's not triggering enough, so it's been adjusted so that it will trigger a bit more often. But it's done in a kind of not just a blanket way, but it should happen more often for characters who are older. So the older a character gets, there's going to be a higher chance for them to die of old age. But again, they don't die immediately, remember. That's not how it works anymore. They will get a trait. There's 4 tiers. So yeah, you'll know when your character is going to die of old age. It's not just going to happen, randomly. You'll get plenty of warning. Another thing was the winter traits. So when it's winter and your faction isn't suitable for certain winters, you'll get a debuff. It just the trait name has been renamed, the tiers of the trait, so it's a bit more obvious. And then just removed a bunch of kind of crappy, negligible effects from some traits and ancillaries. And then all the Elven factions got some new healing ancillaries. They got Antidote of Lothlorien, Healing Vial of Mirkwood, the Athelas of Imladris, and Henbane of Linden. So I think that was part of their overall stat changes, just to give them the opportunity to heal more units and to kind of represent the fact that, yeah, they are very good healers. All right, we're on to the last section, miscellaneous, my favorite category of them all. We're going to go through these ones fairly quickly because I don't have a huge amount to say about them, but yeah. First things first, we have nerfed the foreign spy conversion rate a bit, just to make it so that isn't super powerful. So sending a bunch of spies into another settlement isn't as powerful as it used to be. You'll just need to build the culture buildings. Evil dwarves will hate humans a bit more. They were a bit too passive previously. Now when they actually take the rings, they should start going on a bit more of a rampage in Erebor, which is good. Spy network shortcut is now rebindable along with the slow motion keys, and I've also added a AGO specific style setup. So this is going to be your WASD setup, which is the superior one, and then just a few binds that I like specifically. So yep, that one is in. Character has dread. It doesn't go down anymore. It's just going to be fixed. So if you are playing as Kuzema, he has got 5 dread. That's not going to go down. Witch King of Angmar isn't going to lose his dread. It's going to be max and so on. Make sure factions set their capital to their capital. Okay, so this is a small one, but it's kind of relevant for the ring script and stuff. No longer is Dale going to instantly set their capital to Grasgard every game, or Dorwinion always changes theirs to Caer Leof instead of Helcrin. So it will just stay locked. If they own Helcrin, it will be Helcrin. If they own Dale, it will be Dale, and so on. Make it random, so who the White Council picks to destroy the ring. Okay, yeah, so normally the way the ring script works is that there is a list of characters. So the list is Elrond, Gandalf, Aragorn, Celeborn, and Círdan. And it checks, it goes through the list, and the first one it finds that's alive, it sends them off to destroy the ring if it's the AI who has the ring. And now it's going to pick randomly from the list instead. So rather than always picking Elrond, which is 99% of the time what I see, it will pick randomly from the list of Elrond, Gandalf, Aragorn, Celeborn, and Círdan. So that should be fun. Guardians of Enedwaith have shield piercing. Not sure what that's about, but there you go. War Maidens. So yeah, previously they had the chant. Now they have the Screeching Women effect from Rome 1, which I thought would be interesting, and again it makes them feel more unique because I don't think there's any other unit in the mod that has that, so that's cool. Trebuchet are better against walls, because why not? The Palantir, you will get a notification now when it's ready to be used again, rather than you having to manually go back and check. The Farmhand Pikeman morale has been reduced again, because I don't know why these units, whoever implemented them in the first place really wanted to make them super powerful for some reason. But yeah, they're no longer going to have good morale, and same for siege units had a bunch of weird morale issues as well. The swamp textures on the battle map have been updated, so there was kind of problem where there was a script that involved for the High Elves where you'd go to the Gladden Fields and you'd be fighting there, and you couldn't tell what the actual swamp terrain was that was, cutting your movement speed in half, and it was painful. So I updated that on the battle map, so it should be more obvious now that there is swamp on the battle map, and you can kind of play around that. I'm never going to bring up the fences. Our Adunaim have access to the Tier 3 Warriors Guild, and thank you to DVM for the building description for that one. Removed Light Spear from a few Halberd units so that they won't suck as much versus infantry. The Dragon's Wrath units got their unit stats buffed and the size reduced to better reflect their status, and their kind of training and so on, and the lore of the Uruk Temple. AA, Kandrun, and Harad have all got a better public health bonus from their public fountains / baths to compensate for their lack of pop growth buildings. So that should give them a bit of a boost. There were a few buildings which were giving global recruit morale bonus, and it hadn't been nerfed in line with the overall morale reductions in the mod, so that's been adjusted. The Haradwaith and Faradwaith colors on the map have been adjusted here as well, so that they better blend in with the map, and it's less obvious that they're kind of sticking out as a Thor thumb like Rebel regions. High Elves don't get Cameth Bryn in auto-resolve anymore. The Fountain Guard and Variando Even Dim have been added to the Tier 2 way station, because people love the way station and they don't like when the units aren't in them. And I did the same for the Avari, are in the Tier 2 Woodland Realm way station now as well. Updated the skybox so it actually fits the battle map correctly. Yeah, there was a few times where if you're on really high terrain, like a mountain, you could actually see the skybox wasn't big enough to fit the map. So that's been fixed. Longbeard Phalanx, yeah, it was kind of annoying if you were playing the faction with the Longbeard race trait, then you would often get Longbeard Phalanx as a bodyguard unit. That's just been removed. I shouldn't have probably done that in the first place because it didn't really make any sense. But anyway, the area around Anduin here has been made embarkable, so this is a little beach now, so you can properly disembark ships here. The control Dol Amroth option has been removed. So that's not the merge Dol Amroth, but it's just the control Dol Amroth. So you can't play in the main campaign anyway as Gondor and Dol Amroth. You can play as Gondor on its own. You can play as Dol Amroth on its own, or you can play as Gondor, which gets access to all the Dol Amroth lands at game start, but there's no more control Dol Amroth. There's still merge, just not control. And that was just because it was really buggy. Okay, bug fixes. I'm just going to run through some bug fixes. Maybe I'm not going to go through everything, so I'm just going to pick a few ones. Shattered Alliance, you were neutral with the rebels. That's been fixed. Fixed the issue with First Commander, yep. Some units were missing the throne attribute. The Avari units have free upkeep. Ruin's leader can no longer become the Inquisitor of the Dragon Cult. What else do we have here? Mumakil Shadows. Ring script starting again when it shouldn't be. Yeah, a few other bits and pieces. That's most of the bug fixes. I mean, if you guys report a bug, we usually fix it if it's easily fixable, so I'm not going to go through every single bug that's ever been reported, but we fixed a bunch of bugs, and thank you everyone as always to reporting bugs and issues, and also to people who provide fixes for them, because sometimes people in the community come along and provide fixes for them, which we can then just, add ourselves into the mod, which is really appreciated, so thank you. And that's it, folks. That's everything you can look forward to in version 3.2 of the mod. I hope you enjoyed the overview today. It was actually nice for me and fun to record something different. Hopefully it gives you a bit of an insight into our thought processes behind some of the changes, and just to kind of give you a general overview of what's going to change. Just going to take this opportunity as well to say thank you to our community, and especially to the following people, because if it wasn't for them, the update wouldn't be as huge and comprehensive as it is. So thank you very much to Armolitsky, Wisan, Harn, As You Wish, Bregathel, Jazinski96, Elisar, Oh No, DVM, Juopo, Maverick, Lorinian, and Voya. And thanks, of course, to WK as well for the Carindom model, which I forgot to mention. And of course, thank you to all the other contributors and developers of the mod. I don't know, sometimes I wonder how this all just works. Everyone gets along with each other. Everybody contributes their, small bits and pieces. Some people contribute more, some people contribute less. It doesn't matter. The fact that everyone is able to come together and create something so cool is really impressive, and it's special. I do think it's special. So I was going to make a trailer for the V3 release of AGO, but I never got around to it. So I still have some clips left over, and I'm going to play those in the outro for you. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Check out the update. It should be available from the launcher now. And yeah, enjoy. Let us know what you think. Take care.